Good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Brown. I'm president of the Indian River County branch of the NAACP, and myself and my branch, we welcome you. And we're in partnership with Faith in Florida, Dr. Elizabeth Jackson, state coordinator. She's also my civic engagement chair for the NAACP. We want to do a little housekeeping initially. Ladies and gentlemen, tactic diplomacy will be adhered to at all times. We didn't have any law enforcement because based on our history, we don't do that. But if you get out of line, get out of place, get disrespectful, the door, as my grandmama used to say, let the door down, get you somewhere. We will not tolerate it. Everybody will be afforded an opportunity to answer the questions. The questions will assemble by a multitude of people, and they will be coming at you from our perspective. They are not something you've heard. We're looking at this from a different perspective as it relates to an impoverished, under-resourced community of color and the nuances associated with our struggle. With that being said, the candidates will go to that end, and I will now bring to the stage Reverend Benny Ryan, who is the pastor of Mount Sinai Missionary Baptist Church, but he's also the Religious Affairs Chairman for the Indian River County branch of the NAACP.
Dear Lord, we just want to thank you for this day. You've been good to us. You brought us through the heat of the day. Truly your mercy, your goodness, endure forever. And we thank you that we have this opportunity to come together, that we are in a land where we can vote and have this right and express this freedom. And we know it wasn't because of man, it's because of you. And we give thanks unto you. As we go forth this hour, we pray, dear Lord, that you will enrich us with wisdom, with understanding. Help us to do that which is right in your eyesight. And we will give you praise and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you may be seated. For those of you who don't know, the NAACP starts every meeting with prayer and the pledge. We are a faith-based organization. I'd also like to take this moment. Indian River County has been blessed at the Florida State Conference level. In our branch, we have Mr. Donald Hart, who's the state first vice president. He's also the branch first vice president. We have Mr. Victor Hart Jr., who is Area 5 director. Victor Hart Sr. is Area Director Emeritus. Their father, Raquel Wright, is the Assistant State Secretary. And yours truly, I am the third vice president for the Florida State Conference, and I'm also the state health chair. So we locking and loading. And we're trying to bring some goodness to the organization. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that in this process, that you leave here informed, that you have a better understanding of some of the stuff that you are not aware of. It is crucial in this moment for especially with these two tonight, our school district and our county commission. Ladies and gentlemen, if I was still in the Air Force, I would say DEFCON 4. And it's real. I'm there where the data is. You can manipulate data, but data is raw. We need to make sure that the people we bring into the table pass the test and are available and willing to do the dirty, down-home hard work to make sure that Indian River County, its school district, and its county can be the best that all of us would like for it to be. So we're going to move forward. I'm going to bail out. I'm going to now turn it over to my Civic Engagement Chair, Dr. Elizabeth Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I call Mr. Brown Mr. President out of honor and respect. He is a great leader for our work. I have been tasked to share a little bit with you. It is always a pleasure when communities come together, organizations who have a mission statement to create racial equity and economic justice in the state of Florida by organizing people of faith in those who are most oppressed by unjust systems and laws. As always, the NAACP, Faith in Florida, and the Treasure Coast Florida chapter of the Links Incorporated. And of course, we cannot, Mr. President, forget our Divine Nine. All of our community organizations, our grassroots coalition, we have all made a pact. We're coming together for a collective agenda. And so the questions that will be asked of those seeking office this evening, we have spent the last 2 years since 2020, and even through COVID, all our organizations, we've been having listening sessions with our community. We've been canvassing, phone banking, and talking to those who are closest to the pain. Because in my work as State Deputy Director of Faith in Florida, I oversee people in 35 counties. I oversee a staff of 15 grassroots organizers. And with the NAACP, we believe that those who are closest to the pain are the ones who have the solution. So with that being said, we're getting ready to start our forum this evening. This is a safe space. This is a space where all of you must understand that these questions have come from the pain of the community. And they have been vetted by me and our team, and no one has any preferential treatment with the questions. You all know our history. We are fair and we are nonpartisan because our faith dictates that we be just as God is just. The moderators for this evening are very well equipped, and coming from Port St. Lucie, Florida, is my dear friend and Melody Creek. Melody has been a Florida resident for over 20 years. She is a former prosecutor and a retired judge with an extensive history of community service. Kevin Browning is not a stranger to our community. He has been a part of our organization for many years. Kevin is a former educator. He is an HR director for, I'm sorry, Kevin, I can't read your right. For local municipal government. And so these two moderators will be conducting and asking the questions. And so at this time, I would like to ask that the candidates for the school board, if you will take the stage to my right, and they are in alpha order. And anytime you need water or anything, just let us know. Ladies and gentlemen, we now put the forum in the hands of our moderators.
Good evening. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for participating tonight. We have a limited time of approximately 50 minutes, 50. So it's almost like speed dating. Each candidate will have equal time, and to make sure each candidate will be cut off at their allotted time, there will be a 10-second warning. Also, we will alternate who goes first. Let's go. So, the candidate opening will include what you want to say, such as why I want to be a school board member, what changes I'm seeking to address, how can I work effectively with current board members. And we will go Corbin, Gibbs, Post, Rosario, Barenborg, Kenny. I'll remind you. Ms. Corbin first. The timekeeper, Ms. Pender is the timekeeper, and she will be letting you know we waiting for your time.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank the NAACP for having this Meet the Candidate Forum. And as many of you may not know, I am LaDonna Corbin. I'm a native of Indian River County. I was born and raised right here in the largest district, in the largest community in District 2. I'm a wife. I'm a working mother of 8 children, and I have 3 children and 1 granddaughter in the Indian River County school system. I currently am a wellness coordinator for the first community partnership school in Indian River County, right here at Town Elementary. I earned my bachelor's degree in my bachelor's of science in social science and a minor in mental health. In mental health. The concentration in mental health from Mercer University. I also earned my master's degree from Strayer University in the healthcare policy and law. What I would like to do is unify the district to bring strength and unity for my community. I have firsthand everyday knowledge of our people. I have firsthand knowledge of everyday concerns within our community.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Please speak into the mic so that we can pick you up.
Good evening.
We're recording.
Good evening. Oh, that's good. Hi, I'm Cindy Gibbs. I'm a resident of Sebastian. I taught in Indian River County schools, beginning with Thompson Elementary, 5th grade. I transferred up to Sebastian when I found out I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, because it's a 40-minute drive sometimes, and it was just easier to be working in my community, and eventually both of my children attended Sebastian Elementary. I decided after 10 or 11 years at Sebastian that it was time to work with a different administration, so I transferred to Beachland, and that is where I ended my teaching career in our school district before I became a customer service representative. That's not true. I'm a professional development coach of customer service representatives, so I still work in customer service, but I have lots of education experience, and my goal is, as a parent and a former educator in our district, to be able to speak the language of inside the classroom and outside the classroom throughout the entire district, to represent all of our community, all of our students, all of our families, to try to bridge the gap and work together. Thank you.
Rosario.
Hello. Hi everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for holding this forum. My name is Jacqueline Rosario. I am a woman of faith. I am a mom, a teacher, administrator, and your current school board member for District 2. I ran for school board in 2018. It was really a walk of faith. I didn't realize the impact of the job of a school board member until the pandemic. At that point, it really hit me how important it was that the decisions that the school board member makes has a grave impact on the lives of children and their families. Some of the things that I want to address this second round is the achievement gap. I want to be able to have a discussion about addressing the achievement gap, which is quite vast. I also want to work on transparency at the district and the reading and math achievement levels. I hope on August 23rd that you would vote for me, Jackie Rosario, for School Board District 2. Thank you.
Mr. Post.
Hi, good evening. My name is Josh Post. I'm running for School Board District 2. I'm married, have 4 children, and 1 grandson who's sitting over there with my wife. I was a school teacher, 6.5 years at Storm Grove Middle School, so I'm part of this community. I've lived here 12 years. I left teaching in 2019 for financial reasons. My wife, we decided that she would stay at home with my grandson, and on a teacher salary, that was not possible to do. It's important for you to know about me. I have always been a high achiever for myself, but I also have high standards for my students. And considering I have my former principal here, Ms. Jennifer Idelette, and Mr. Danny Hart, the assistant principal, they can vouch for me and the high standards that I have for my students. I'll have that high standards for the board. I would also have that high standard for the superintendent and the students. While we need to work on all of the gaps that we see educationally, and I would pray that you would vote for me on August 23rd.
Ms. Barenborg.
Hi, my name is Teri Barenborg. My husband Ed and I have lived here for 3.5 decades. Our kids went to Dodgertown, Gifford, and Vero Beach High School. All left and came back to this community to be able to raise their future kids. And we have a grandson now, and any day a granddaughter coming. I have taught at Dodgertown for 7 years, and I was assistant principal at Highlands when it was Highlands, and I was a principal at Garden City and Fort Pierce. I've also been an author or co-author of 8 books on STEM. I'm current chair of the school board, and the reason why I want to keep running and being on the school board is because I think I brought a calming effect to the school board, and I'm not done advocating for children, all children. Thank you.
Mr. King.
I want to thank the NAACP for having us. Is that me or you? Hello, hello. I want to thank the NAACP for having this event. This is really wonderful. I'm Thomas Kenny. I'm running for school board in District 4. I'm a self-employed taxpayer in Indian River County. I've been an advocate and a citizen addressing issues, and I find that there's a dire need for citizen advocacy in education. I was asked by many Indian River County residents to run because of my understanding of proper citizen engagement, parental rights, taxpayer accountability, and a proactive student discipline. And I believe these 4 things, if we take care of them, will turn this school system around into education first. My wife of 27 years, Angela, is not here tonight, but when I was asked, we sat and thought about it very carefully, and we both answered the call to serve this community. We've lived here since 2014, and we want to see the school system move forward.
Thank you very much. Candidates, public trust of its elected officials cannot exist without transparency of action by those who are elected to serve. With this in mind, I ask you 2 questions. Number 1, how will you maintain transparency in your role of a school board member? And secondly, as a board member, what is the best method for those you serve to contact you, and what do you deem a reasonable response time? We'll start with Ms. Corbin.
Trust and transparency is very important. The first question is how will I maintain transparency? I have to remember that transparency begins with the first point of contact with a person. You have to build that trust and build those relationships with people. From there, the transparency will become very relevant. People will know exactly where you are and who you are and what you stand for. The second question is the best method to be reached. If chosen for the board, I would have 24 to 72 hours to return all messages, voicemails, and emails. And fortunately, I live in the community of Gifford, so if there was an issue with someone, I always have someone knocking at my door. Even now as a community partnership member, I always have someone knock at the door and just, hey, I just need a minute of your time. So I'll always be open and welcome. My door is totally always open and welcome. And 24 hours, 24 to 72 hours, always will have a return. And also being transparent is building the trust first.
Thank you, Ms. Corbin. Next, we'll have Ms. Gibbs.
Trust and transparency. I'll act the same way that I always did when I was in my classroom. I had great relationships with the parents of the students that I taught. I had great relationships with my coworkers in the classroom. I now work virtually, and I have deep, transparent, trusting relationships with my coworkers, even though we don't live in the same state. But we all have access to each other's data, so there's nothing to hide. We're all very open about the way that we communicate with each other. I'm very proud of the fact that I still have strong relationships with a lot of the families of the children that I taught. It's just part of living in a tight community where everyone can communicate with each other and feel trusted, 100%. As far as reaching out to me, I work from home. I'm on my computer all day long. I have a cell phone next to me at the same time. I would expect when I contact my children's teacher to get back to me within 24 hours. I'd like to have that same experience from a board member, and that's what I'll hold myself to, 24 hours. Email or phone, that would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Next, we'll have Mr. Post.
I'll start with the second question first. 24 hours. I signed in on the way in. It has my email and it has my phone number. Feel free to call me at any point in time. I've talked to people as late as 9:30 at night if need be, if I have the ability to call somebody back right then and there while I've been on the campaign trail. So feel free to contact me at any point in time. Trust is pretty paramount. Being transparent, open. One of the things that I'd like to point out is the COVID year, the state of Florida gave every school district the option to post school grades. And our school district did not post the grades. And that was because 9 elementary schools dropped at least one letter grade, 2 middle schools dropped at least one letter grade, and 2 of the high schools dropped at least one letter grade. That would not have happened on my watch. I would have made sure that the public is aware of those things. I think being transparent is what allows a community to be able to trust the decisions that we make and then holding the superintendent accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Post. If you could turn your microphone off. Ms. Rosario, you're next.
Thank you. I just wanted to answer this question with the fact that we are not, as elected officials, we should not be in this position if we have any other kind of political agenda. If we have a personal push for this position or another position that we are seeking, this is not the position. This is not the work of a school board member. The school board member should understand that their work is of the people. We are elected by the people for the people. And so we acknowledge that you are our bosses, essentially, that we are hired by your votes, and that we work according to what you all want as our constituents. And so with that being said, we address, or at least I, respond to my constituents anytime that they call or text or email. And usually I respond within 24 to 48 hours, which is usually, can I finish that? Which is usually, I'm a mom, and so, you got to give yourself a little bit of headway with that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bourne, is it Barenborg? Thank you.
As far as transparency goes, I think it's improving. It's not totally there where we need to be in the district yet, but when I got on the board, we didn't have any of our finances up there on the website. We didn't have a lot of things on the website, and that has improved tremendously. We're not done with that. We need to keep improving our transparency. Parents, taxpayers, everyone needs to be able to access that information, that data. I think Focus has helped parents really know what's going on with their children, and especially I've had a lot of parents tell me how helpful it is for attendance and things like that. As far as getting a hold of me, I have people stop me in Winn-Dixie and Publix, at the library, and of course, try to get back to people right away. As a matter of fact, some people are really surprised when I call them. Try not to call after 9 o'clock at night. So I think that people deserve that. If you've elected us in these positions, we need to get back to you.
Thank you. Last but not least, Mr. Kinney.
Yeah. When you get called by a citizen at the school board, the first thing you need to do is respond, whether it's by email or phone, text, however that case may be. And I think that's really important within 24 hours to 48 hours, for sure. It's just, you're a public servant and you serve the public. One of the things I think also that needs to be mentioned is that through the controversial issues of last year, the camera at one point was removed in the public comment. As citizens were making it, they were put off to the side. And the current chair brought it back, but I would also say let's extend it to 5 minutes of public comment. Let's restore this trust that's sort of been shaken a little bit here, and let's bring back the public into the understanding of everyday business at the school board.
Thank you.
Okay, board members will be making decisions for 17,000 students, approximately, other people's children. Are you a parent with children that have committed to remain and graduate from our public school system? Why or why not? Starting with Ms. Barenborg, then Mr. Kinney, and Corbin. Board members will be making decisions for approximately 17,000 students, other people's children. Are you a parent with children or have children that you have committed to remain and graduate from our public school system? Why or why not? Ms. Barenborg, then Mr. Kinney, then Ms. Corbin.
Sure. As I said in my intro, all three of my children went through our schools. As a matter of fact, my children were probably headed to Osceola Magna School, but I pulled them and brought them to Dodderdtown with me. It was a wonderful experience. My grandchildren are one and one about to be 4, are too young to come to school. However, the plan is for them to enter public schools because that's how I grew up and that's how my kids attended school, and I think it's really important that as a board member, we should be supporting our public schools. Thank you.
For those of you who don't know my story, my wife and I were not able to have children. But one of the things we have always done is pastor youth, mentor youth, and all sorts of things. I'm a school choice advocate, I'll just tell you straight out. And here's my story that I was mentoring a kid in Washington, D.C. His name was Leroy. He had special needs. He had cerebral palsy. Beautiful guy. And so his grandparents put him in a school where that was accommodating because they had the voucher system. At the election of Obama, they removed the voucher system from the city of Washington. It was an experimental program. And as a result, he couldn't do his schooling where he was anymore, where he was getting really good attention. Fortunately, he ended up graduating. But these are important things that when we make promises to kids, we carry them to the end.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you some quick math. I'm a mother of 8 children. I had 5 children in the school system. I graduated 2. I have 3 remaining, and now I have my granddaughter here that's in the public school system. It's important that I have them follow the trail that I follow through the public school system. And yes, I do have children. I have 3 and 1 granddaughter in the public school system, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Ms. Gibbs, Mr. Post, and then Ms. Rosario.
So I'll start at the beginning. I'm a product of a very high-quality public education system. And I believe in it very deeply, so much so that I got a master's in it so that I could teach it. And so then, of course, my 2 beautiful girls also attend public schools. In fact, I went into labor with both of them in my public school classroom. So they understand school. They were with me at all 3 of the schools. 2 of the schools, they weren't born yet at Thompson. They were with me at Sebastian when we transferred to Beachland. They came with me there. They also worked with me in my Moonshot classroom when I worked with the Learning Alliance after school. They were present for that the after school tutoring program as well. They get public school. They believe in it the same way I do. My youngest attends Storm Grove Middle School. My oldest is starting 10th grade at Sebastian River High School. And like Ms. Corbin said, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I did not go into labor in my classroom with any of my children, just for the record. Have 4 children. All 4 are graduates of Indian River County High Schools, 3 from Vero Beach High School. And I have a special needs son, Gabe, who's here tonight as well, who aged out of the system this year at 22 through Sebastian River High School. One of the things that you'd said, there's 17,000 students, Mr. Brown, in this district. And I remember talking to Denny Hart at Walmart, just like Winn-Dixie and all these other places, about getting my son involved in chorus because they did not want to let him sing in chorus because of his autism. And he said, you have to fight for your, I was a teacher, and he said, you got to fight for your son. And I didn't really understand that at the time, but I knew what he meant, which is, just because you're a teacher, you can't allow that, your position, to keep you from fighting for your son. So I just want to let you know, I will fight for your children. I will do the best that I can for their education and for their betterment.
Hi, thank you. I'm a product of public education myself, and I did dedicate my adult career to public education as a teacher and a school administrator. But when my son was in 1st grade in the public school system here, I started to see some things that I wasn't happy about with his learning and the attention that he was getting. And for us, it was an opportunity that we discussed as a family whether we can homeschool or not. And we prayerfully considered it, and at the end of the day, that's what we decided to do. Homeschooling is the best decision for our family. It's one of the reasons why I champion school choice, so that parents have the opportunity of choosing the school of their choice, not being tied down to the school in their zoned area, so that they can actually send their child to any school that has the theme that they want or the specific academic area that they choose. So that's very important for me.
Thank you. Candidates, depending on the source, Indian River schools are ranked anywhere from number 11 to number 24 in the state. But according to the state test scores, barely half of Indian River students are proficient in math and reading, 57% and 55% respectively. The question is, what would you propose for the continued improvement of Indian River academic achievement and the elevation of test scores? We'll start with Ms. Rosario, and then Ms. Barenborg, Mr. Kinney, Ms. Corbin, Ms. Gibbs, and Mr. Post.
Okay, so specifically regarding the math and the reading scores here in Indian River County, I'll just share with you that ELA scores for all students altogether overall is 53%. I don't believe that that is acceptable. Overall for math scores is 51%. So you have to think about that. With 14,000 students, how many students are not achieving at or above grade level? We need to address the achievement gap in order for us to be able to close that. We need to be able to talk about it now, not in 5 years. We also need to be able to discuss data and make data-driven decisions, not just at the district office, but specific to schools. So schools need to get involved in what that data is so that teachers can actually differentiate the instruction specific to the students in their classroom. So that's how you actually give the instruction, right, to each individual student. So it trickles down, and then students will be able to improve based on their individual strengths and weaknesses.
First of all, thank you for pointing out that data can be skewed. And when you're talking about skewing statistical data, you know, you can make yourself look good with any data you've got. And last year, of course, we had to compare ourselves to other districts because of going through COVID. It didn't look good. It still doesn't look good. And I've always said we are not happy with where we are. And we won't be happy until we have kids reading at the highest level they can read. The other thing that concerns me is when you're talking about ranking versus test scores, Those are numbers, but let's get down to individual students. Are they graduating with the skills that they need to be productive citizens? Are they learning to read and write, or are they just getting a piece of paper when they walk across the stage? And as a board member, it's my job to look through that statistical data and figure those things out.
53 and 51%, and then we just had a presentation a month ago or last month's meeting that we're graduating at 95% or somewhere around there. And I even looked at the data on the NAACP Facebook page that showed the different reading by race. Overall, we were 42% according to those figures, with a 96% graduation rate. So there's something not right there. 42% reading at grade level, 96% graduation rate. We do have to address each school and get to that instruction that's tailored to students. Some students are visual, some students read, some students hear. Whatever it takes, that differentiation between students and going after individual kids to elevate them and get them to learn. Secondly, discipline in the schools, which I'm sure we're hopefully going to be talking about here very shortly.
Corbin?
Thank you. We have the systems in place, but there's three things that need to happen. We have to track the data, we have to monitor the data, and we have to have accountability for the data. We don't have the accountability for our children. We have to start being proactive and not reactive. We have 3 times a year now moving forward for progress monitoring. To have these tests, we'll have 3 opportunities to be able to track and monitor the progress of where our children are. And also, we have to break barriers. There are many barriers that's preventing our children from learning and being on grade level. So we have to be able to put that tracking, monitoring, and accountability in place to break the barriers to have our children graduating on grade level.
Ms. Gibbs?
So I think we have to address the elephant in the room, is that none of our schools are really equal. We have magnet schools, we have charter schools, we have regular schools, right? And there's not equal treatment in all of those schools. Yes, homeschool, absolutely. I know, as a product of a teacher, that I never taught in a magnet school. So I'll tell you that when we sat at the faculty meeting at the beginning of every school year and we saw the test scores from the year before, it was the magnet schools and the regular schools. And it's still that way. I mentioned this at a school board meeting a couple of months ago, and I can't tell you how many phone calls and emails I got from the teachers at the regular schools saying thank you for finally recognizing that it is not equitable from school to school for teachers or for kids. So we need to make sure that all schools are receiving the right kinds of services, yes, targeted directly toward what kids need based on the data, and we have to make sure that everyone's being held accountable for that.
It's a joke how low our schools are performing at. When I came to Storm Grove Middle School, we had a 68% algebra passing rate. My first year there, for the entire school, we went up to 88%, and from that point forward, we're at above 95%. So I think it has a lot to do with the teachers and the accountability of the teacher. And it's very important that we recognize that not all teachers are the same. And while I was a teacher who worked for my students to make sure that they actually learn the material, we have folks that are going through the motions, just like any job, any careers out there. And we need to get rid of the people that are just going through the motions, and we need to bring in the people that will actually have a heart for kids and will do the best job for students. So that's one of the things that we have to work on is our recruiting of teachers into this area. And we have to do a better job of getting, not that we don't have great teachers, we do, but we do need to work on making sure that they're doing the extra needed to get our students to the level that is required.
Some say that too much focus has been on book bans and masks and not enough time on academics. Have we spent enough time on academics? And what do you recommend to help the students who have fallen behind for the past couple of years to push them to their level of attainment that we all want to see? We'll go Ms. Corbin, Ms. Gibbs, and Ms. Post. Mr. Post, sorry. Ms. Corbin first. I apologize.
So I am living the post-pandemic in real time. And this climate has allowed more focus to be on politics and not on the education of all children. I have watched my children suffer, and I have watched the children that I work with every day suffer the consequences of these actions. We have to bring back the focus to educating our children. It is important. If we don't educate our children, they won't graduate. So if we educate them appropriately, they will graduate. That's a given. So we do have to bring the focus back to education, and how we would do that is use the systems that we have in place, target the children that is not meeting the achievement gaps, and put proactive measures in place. We have roughly 9 months to get it right. How are we still having children at the end of the year still not meeting grade level? As Mr. Post said, it's ridiculous. How do we fix it? We fix it together.
Yes, we absolutely need to get the focus back on academics in the classroom. And how do we do that? We focus on literacy. How do we do that? We put books in the hands of children and stop demonizing teachers the way that we're hearing things in the media. Our teachers work their butts off. They work so hard. They have their heart and soul in this. And unfortunately, what we're hearing out in the media and our community is that our teachers are doing inappropriate things with our children, and that they're pushing pieces of literature on them that are inappropriate. It's a bunch of nonsense. Look at the children in your community. Do you really think they've read those books? Do you really think any quality parent is going to allow their children to read books that we keep hearing about? Of course not. It's a distraction. I think what happened was we had COVID, people got to see the inside scoop of what it's like and how hard it is to teach, and when kids got back to the classroom, it was really easy to demonize those adults. So now what we need to do as a community is come together, remember that we have to turn to the experts and respect them and create a partnership and a relationship with them instead of bad-mouthing them. I think that will make things much better.
Graduation rates to me are not what we need to focus on. We need to look at when our students leave the district, are they capable of supporting themselves in our community? A strong community has a strong education system. And if we are graduating students who can't read well, can't do math well, can't function well, don't have problem-solving skills, etc., our community is going to decline because they're not going to be able to find jobs. So it is very important that we recognize that we have to not just graduate students, but actually give them the skills that are needed to be successful in life. So a couple things that we do already in our district, I want to kind of paint a picture of like what Swiss cheese looks like. So if your child came to me and I was his teacher, I would look at them and I would see where their gaps are. Think of a piece of Swiss cheese, there's a hole. Well, in order for them to learn what I'm going to teach them, we have to fill that hole. So it's very important that we recognize that each student is different. Everybody has different holes. Could be something in reading, could be specific to math, etc. So we have to recognize where their hole is and fill it, so then we can build and keep going with those students. A couple things that, for me, is we have the iReady program, which will take your student where they are and have them work on the topics that they're struggling with so that they can then be taught the additional topics on top of it.
So we have agenda after agenda proving that we have actually discussed academics at the school board level. Our school board meetings are filled with a lot of things. We're responsible for things such as passing and approving policy and procedure. We're also in charge of the academics and literature and all of the curriculum, and of course addressing masking and library books, which are academic issues. For me, they are not political, they are academic. They are also legal issues because when we are given a law that says do not do this, It's up to us to ensure that we do not do it. And so if a lot of time has been taken up at our school board meetings to address those issues, it's because we are legally responsible to do that. It's our constitutional duty. So we do have a lot more to do with regard to the discussion on academics, but we have not strayed away from the issues that have faced us or that have come before us, and so we have had a legal obligation to address them.
Ms. Barenborg and then Mr. King.
Thank you. Our job as board members is to listen, not to talk so much, but to listen. And if someone is coming with a concern about books or concern about masks, our job is to listen, research, and make the best decision we can. Yeah, we've been given a lot of interesting things in the last 2 years, and last 3 years since I've been on the board. But I will say that during the pandemic, it was hard to focus on academics because we were thinking about safety more than we were thinking about academics, and safety is always number one. But academics, we are not where we should be. We're one of the top 14 counties in the state of Florida as far as property rich. And we don't have one of those top performing school districts yet. But we're going to be. And we need to keep supporting teachers to do that. Good teachers that are here following the standards, doing the hard work and the good job, we need to start supporting them, raising them up.
A lot of those issues that we talked about, parents brought to the school board directly. It was their concern, and so the school board has to address them. And it was about law. It was about following the law, the will of the people, and that's why they came vocally. And they should. And we should listen. So when you talk about it, it is academic because a lot of parents have kids who are having physical issues with the masking, which they by law didn't have to wear. It was a parent's choice. With the library books, a lot of them didn't read it, and this wasn't directed at any teachers or anything of that nature. It was directed at, they're in the school. We need to fix this. And then we found out in that process, in Deryl Beach High School, for example, only 100 books were checked out of 3,000 students in 1 year. So kids aren't doing the educational things in a school. So how do we encourage that? That's where we need to go. And then all this stuff will go away because it will become education first.
Thank you. In 2011, there were 16 school shootings nationwide. 10 years later, that number has exploded exponentially to 251. As the new school year begins, we are at 165. Parents, students, teachers, and support personnel are entering this school year in fear that Indian River could be next. The voters want to know what suggestions you would make as a board member to prevent the massacre of students and staff on Indian River school property. We'll start with Mr. Post, Ms. Rosario, Ms. Barenborg, Mr. Kinney, Ms. Corbin, and Ms. Gibbs.
See something, say something. Students need, if they hear something, see something, whatever, they've got to say something. We've got to teach them to be responsible to, if they hear something, that they actually share it. At Storm Grove Middle School, we had a box in the front office that kids could drop off. If they heard something, whatever the case may be, anonymously, they could put that in there, and the administration took that very seriously. And so it's really important that we recognize that. Obviously, anything that we can do within the law in terms of, for safety purposes, making sure doors are locked, one point of entry and egress, etc. We have to do all those things, and we've already started that. The district's already started that. The partnership that we have with the Sheriff's Office, the Vero Beach PD, Fellsmere PD, etc., continue to build on those things and to make sure that what happened in Texas and what happened down in Parkland, where people are there but are unwilling to go in, that can't happen. That can't happen, folks. So we've got to make sure that that relationship is strong within that community itself.
That's
It's a very important question. We have to continue to maintain good working relationships with our local law enforcement. We have school resource deputies in every school. We also have single point entries in every school campus. Many of the schools have gates around them to ensure that there is extra security around the campus to keep perpetrators out as best as possible. It's unfortunate that we can't have a system that is 100% foolproof, but it is certainly a move forward. I think that we also need to realize that we can't have any other security guards or other personnel carrying on school campuses, which some people worry about, because according to the Safe Bill Act, it's really up to the local sheriff's office to make that determination. We don't train those personnel. Those personnel are trained by the sheriff's office. So we have to follow suit with what the local sheriff's office says. We also, I think, should set up a student crime watch, but there's so many things to discuss about with that. But that being said, student safety is #1 priority.
Okay, that, as I said before, it's always my #1 priority. It's something that wakes me up at night. I've been through Columbine training as a school board employee, and it's pretty sad that we have to do that, but we have to do that. And we have to do that for our kids, and I'm willing to do that for any child that takes a bullet for a child. I will say that Fortify Florida is an app that we put in place, and it's an app that we encourage everyone to download, because if you see something, say something, you put it right on the app, and I know our sheriff's department gets lots of information from that. We have cameras, so we've doubled our cameras, if not tripled our cameras. We have SWAT training. We train with our adults on the campus. We partner our schools. We have SROs, not just one on campus. We have 2 on the big campuses. But one thing that no one's talked about right now is the type of shooters. If you look at who has been shooting up schools, it's kids that have graduated from that school or are from that community, and it's a mental health issue. And we need to look at that. Why are kids doing this? Why are people doing this? And we can harden a school all we want, but that's one thing we need to really look at is why are people doing these things? And we need to help support them so that they don't turn on their school and do these horrible things that we've read about.
Mr. Gibbs, yes.
You've heard a lot about what we're doing at the schools in terms of the external environment. Single entry points, fencing, doors, security, SROs. I could repeat what everyone says, but I think for me, one of the main issues is internal discipline too. I think we need to have a disciplinary dean and mentorship program where there are certified instructors out in the hallways doing dean work to help the assistant principal with discipline. Because the assistant principal is also working on school budgets and all these different things that go on in the school with the principal. And this is where you will have more active people who care because they're instructors in the school hallways. And to help with that, so the environment within the school can become safer, can become more cordial. The first thing we always have to do in mentoring young people is to respect one another, honor one another, and cheer on one another. And that's what deans would do, as well as have that discipline there that is very, very important. And if we have that type of working environment, then that lessens these types of situations all the more.
Corbin?
So we start out with prepared readiness, everyday language in the classrooms and with the teachers and with the students throughout the school, prepared readiness. Have that comfortable language with the children so they'll know what it is when we do the fire drills and how to be able to execute the fire drills, the drills that we have proficiently. Also, charity begins at home and spreads abroad. We have to be comfortable having these uncomfortable conversations with our children in our home. It starts at home. From their parents, we also have to see something and say something. We can't be afraid to tell our own children when we know that something is not going right. This is where the partnership comes in place. We build that communication and that relationship with that school to where we feel comfortable to go to that school and say, hey, something's not right with my child. I need help. As a parent of 8 children, I couldn't have done it without my school system working closely with me. And I'll leave you with this, the 4 to 5. See something, say something, not only as students, but as parents also.
Thank you. Ms. Gibbs?
Something we've heard a lot about in the last couple of years as a cause of concern from some people in the community is that there's too much social emotional learning in our schools. And I'm here to tell you that without social emotional learning in our schools, school shootings are never going to end. I think people are a little confused about what that means. Social emotional learning isn't a class. It's teaching manners and collaborative skills and interpersonal skills to children from K through 12. It's how we get along. It's the kinds of things that business owners are constantly saying our kids don't have enough of when they graduate from high school and go out into the working world, being able to work with other people. And the only way you do that is to build trusting relationships. And every good classroom educator knows relationships before rigor. You have to have children trust you, or at least be on the precipice of trusting you before they can learn from you. That's just basic education knowledge. So we need to have strong relationships, trusting relationships, yes, amongst teachers, parents, administrators. Everybody needs to have a transparent, open door policy so that we can feel comfortable seeing something and saying something.
Thank you.
Capability, ethics, commitment, trust, and professionalism are important among our leaders, as it should be. Have you ever been, in your professional career, asked to resign, terminated from a position? Where and why? We can just go to Ms. Barenborg.
Sure. No. I know that my record is for public viewing, and it's been pulled in both Indian River and in St. Lucie for people to, I guess, look at. And I guess they didn't find anything because you can't really put anything down if you have exemplary status. So no, I've never been fired, and I try really, really hard to be a very, very trusting and ethical person. And I think ethics is the most important thing that a person can have. And it's interesting to point the finger at somebody else, but you really need to look in the mirror and point the finger at yourself sometimes and say, am I doing everything I should today? Thank you.
No. I've been fired. I think in 2008 I was bought out in a corporate merger. That's about it. Happens in media. Companies merge together, they buy you out. Ethics are very important to me. That's why transparency with the citizen is first and foremost on my mind, and the safety of our schools. Because to me, I'm called to serve this community in this position. I'm not called to dictate. And so there has to be an honest, forthright conversation every day with the citizens whom I represent, and then with the superintendent. And so he can do his job effectively. If we have a clear, law-abiding board, he can do his job, and he's really, his reputation is turning things around. And I want him to be able to do that. And the only way I can do that is to be honest and forthright and transparent like I've been professionally.
So my answer would be no also. I've never been fired from a job. I've never asked to resign for a job. I've been headhunted to come back to several jobs. I've been asked to even collaborate here in Florida with my old company from Atlanta. Just recently reached out to do a collaboration with them, even cross state lines. But I have never been asked to leave a job, or have I been fired from a job. So my answer would be no. And ethics and being trustworthy is very important with any position, any job, work as a cashier, anywhere. Trust is very important. Thank you.
Ms. Gibbs?
Short answer is no. I've never been fired from a job. I've had a lot of jobs. Before I became an educator, I first started teaching when I was in my early 30s. It took me a while to get there, but I know that my path and everything I did before that led me to the classroom, and ultimately I'm still an educator. I educate my own children, and I educate adults virtually from home for an excellent company. So no, I've never been asked to leave a job. I have made the decision, the professional decision, to better myself, to increase my own skills, to make myself feel confident and strong and good, to know that I'm doing the best I can in the world, and to be a good role model for my children. So I've made the decision to leave jobs, but I have never been asked to, and I agree with everyone else so far to say that ethics is of utmost importance, certainly for a school board position.
So transparency and honesty is really important. Yes, I was actually terminated from a job. It is a scenario. I was in my early 20s, and I actually went forward with, I had made a mistake. I had a verbal authorization to conduct some transactions, and I did not have written authorization. And when I went to my company, I went to them. They did not come to me. And when I went to them and said, hey, I just want to let you know, I have this verbal authorization. I don't have this written authorization, which is called discretion. They said, I'm sorry, we're going to have to let you go. So I think it is important to be honest and open. It's something that, I look back and say, it was a very good learning experience for myself. Not something that I'm so, proud to get fired from a job. But I am in the same industry that I was in when that occurred, and have all the different licenses that I have, and have had no issues with getting licensed, etc. From that scenario.
So Florida is a right-to-work state. And here in the school district, it's important to know that there's a difference between being fired and being non-renewed. If you are fired, you are not allowed to reapply for any position within the district. Those are different. When I last worked at Storm Grove Middle School, I left because I had back surgery. So I was on Family Medical Leave Act. While you are on Family Medical Leave Act, you are not allowed by law to fire someone while on Family Medical Leave. You know that as a judge, you're not allowed to do that. What happened to me was, while on Family Medical Leave Act, the district decided that they were going to try to non-renew me, which is also against the law. It's one of the reasons why I am so against professional bullying, and why I am so firm on the district following the law. The district seems to think that they can decide whatever they want to do to ruin someone's reputation against the law. It is not appropriate, it is unprofessional, and we have to stop doing that.
Thank you very much. In accordance with federal law, the district accords equal opportunity and protection to all students, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender identification. How would you explain to the voters that this policy is not promoting an agenda, but instead is judgment neutral and does not promote or condone the choices of the individual student to identify as he, she, they choose? I'll start with you, Mr. Kinney, Ms. Corbin, Ms. Gibbs, Mr. Post, Ms. Rosario, and Ms. Barenborg. I am going to get that, I promise. Mr. Kinney.
That was a really long question. Can you repeat it again?
Absolutely. How would you explain to the voters that this policy is not promoting an agenda, but instead is judgment neutral and does not promote or condone the choices of an individual student to identify as he, she, they choose?
So, which policy are you referring to?
The non-discrimination policy. So, in accordance with federal law, the district accords equal opportunity and protection.
So you're referring to the non-discrimination, equal access reference where the policies are laid out?
Yes.
Yeah, those are eternal truths. And so, that's what we do. That's our goal, to be non-discriminating, provide equal access to the opportunity of a public education. That's pretty much what is in that reference guide. Has the Title IX reference. I've spoken to people who are in the gay community, women, who have said they would not want their Title IX rights taken by someone who's a male, biologically speaking. And I agree with them on that. And so those are the things that are in that reference, and they're very important. They're all in accordance with state law, pre-existing policy that has demonstrated equality before the law in our school system. Sometimes we have to internalize it a little more and believe it, and then carry it out in our daily lives.
Ms. Corbin? So just as it states in non-discrimination, I would start to say I don't see color, I don't see race, and I don't see gender when I'm looking at our children. That's how it is. If it's nonpartisan, it's non-discrimination. These are children. We see the children first. That's the language that we have to use, is people first and children first when we're educating our children. So that's the language that I will bring to the district. That's the language that I would encourage people to do. That's just like my son. My son's on the spectrum of autism. I don't teach him that he has a disability. I teach him that he has a unique ability, that he processes and thinks things differently from other children. So that does not mean that I want him discriminated on because of his disability. So it's always people first language. If we get that into play, we'll have a happy, unified district. Ms. Gibbs?
So I mentioned earlier that I have a deep belief in the power of high quality public education. And the reason for that is because public education is for everyone. The children arrive at the school, we teach them. It doesn't matter who they are, what their family looks like, who's in their family. And I like to use that word family rather than parent, because families are different now than a lot of us, I'm 50, experienced maybe when we were younger. And it can be discriminatory to even say parent if it's grandma or auntie or whoever. We've got a lot of kids who aren't living with their parents right now. That's another huge problem in this district. And I'm going to go right back again to relationships. There is no agenda on a public school board except to make sure that our children get the best possible high-quality public education, regardless of who they are. And if they have a special need, or they have something going on in their family that needs to be addressed, there needs to be that trust level between the teacher, the school, and the family to be able to address that.
Mr. Post?
Parents have rights, students have rights, and it's the law to abide by those rights. So regardless of personal opinion, of you, me, anyone, the fact is as we look back, parents can raise their children the way they feel fit to raise their children. I wouldn't want somebody to tell me how I could raise my child. I'm sure you wouldn't want me to tell you how you should raise your child. And so I think it's really important to recognize moving forward that they do have rights, and within the boundaries of what we have and what the state laws say, it's very important to recognize that we follow the law. We see a lot of different things happening with genders and things of that nature, where males transitioning into females and vice versa, etc., with sports and fairness and those sorts of things, and we need to follow the law, whatever the law says. So I'm for whatever that law is. As a school board member, I will follow what the law dictates.
Yeah, we need to allow for the provision of equal access to everything for all students, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of home situation or culture. We need to be able to understand that, I'm assuming that you're referring to the most recent non-discrimination. It wasn't a policy, it was a reference guide that was submitted to administrators. We do have policies in place that address non-discrimination, and we do have laws in place, so we have to follow the law, and we have to make sure that everyone is given the same equal opportunities regardless. But we do have some new laws in place that make us adhere to the Parents' Bill of Rights in Education and the parents' rights in general, which means that everything needs to filter through the parent so that the parent gives permission for certain things. whatever those might be, according to what we have in the school district, which is a different policy that's now up for public viewing right now. So we are in the process of making sure that everyone is treated equally and that it should adhere to the law.
Ms. Barenborg.
You got it. All right. Equal protection to all students doesn't necessarily mean that all students get the same thing. And that's because children are unique when they walk into your classroom. They all have different needs. Some may need more supports for mental health. Some may need more supports for physical health. Some may need more supports for their academics. And so we need to treat them all equally as far as keeping politics out of the school. And we need to make sure that we put the supports in place for each child that they need. Schools should be dictating that. The parents should be very much part of that plan, if not telling us what their needs are to help us. And I agree that we have new laws that are in place that are important laws, because every single parent has the right to decide if their child wants counseling, if their child wants extra mental health support, if their child needs academic support. So I think that, we need to keep politics out of school and make sure that parents are very, very involved.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As we stated at the beginning, this is like speed dating. So we've come to the end of our forum. You will have 30 seconds for closing remarks. We're going to start with Ms. Corbin and work our way down the table all the way back to Mr. King. My reason for running for district is I'm a mother of 8 children. And it is time for us to be able to focus on the education of our children to ensure that we are living up to the highest expectations required for the equality of education and life for all children here in Indian River County. It's not about some children, it's about all children. And I'm running to ensure that we are reaching those potentials, meeting those gaps, and educating our children on grade level. Ms. Gibbs?
Thank you again for your time tonight and for allowing us the time to be able to speak to you about our issues. I'm running for school board for the things I've already said. I'm a proud, passionate educator with kids in our school. And I want to make sure that they and their friends and every other child that goes through this system, as well as their family, has equal access to a high-quality, public, unbiased, unagenda-ridden education. Thank you again for your night.
Thank you, Mr. Post.
No drama, can get along with people, can work with people that may have a different opinion than I do. These are qualities that you need to have as a school board member. And I have those qualities. And I feel I'm the best candidate for this job. And I would appreciate your vote on August 23rd and then again in November. I will fight for the children. I will also fight for teachers. And we can turn this around.
Mrs. Rosario.
As a lifelong learner and educator, I understand the significance of affecting change. I also understand the importance of not rubber stamping everything that comes before you. So asking the tough questions, doing the research, making sure that you are bringing forth, being transparent with the citizens of this county, all of the information that you all deserve to know is incumbent upon a school board member. So I am rerunning because we had 2 years of going through 3 superintendents and then again going through COVID. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I can start on day 1 as your school board member, continuing the work that we started. I appreciate your vote on August 23rd. Vote Jackie Rosario. If you want to know more about me, please visit reelectjackie.com. Thank you.
I'd like to just say that I want to continue being an advocate for children. We haven't really talked about financials. The people you voted into this office are responsible for a $361 million budget. We need to make sure that money is spent wisely. It's spent to educate our children so that when they walk across and get that diploma is of value and that we spent that money wisely on them. Thank you.
Mr. Kenny.
My name is Thomas Kenny. I'm running for School Board District 4. I want to thank the NAACP for this opportunity to be before you all. It's been wonderful. I do say this, that I am a citizen advocate and parental rights person. You know, a lot of what happened this past year in the school board and meetings and different things was because the parents were there advocating for themselves. And so there needs to be a voice and an understanding there. And so if I ask you for your vote, votethomaskenny.com. You can go check me out, read more about you, read more about me, and I hope to have your vote on August 23rd. Thank you very, very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you give our candidates a round of applause? On behalf of the NAACP and Faith in Florida, I hope that you received some knowledge here tonight, that you can take what you heard and move forward. I hope the candidates enjoyed themselves and felt that we were respectful of them and respectful of their thought process, but in the process, get to the bottom line of what you can do for our children. So on behalf of the NAACP and Faith in Florida, thank you, and as our gift to you, you can take your name plates with you. And we will have about a 5-minute recess and move right into the county commissioners.
Guess who was running to? So he comes out. That's how I got him. I got him where I want him. I said, so, do you know? He said, no, you do. I said, you're getting money. That money's from the hospital. I'll get back to you, Georgie. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. I go to Corbin. I go to Gibbs. This is what you guys are playing Hollywood, taking pictures, rubbing elbows with cameras. I said, it's going to catch up to you. Excuse me, expression. Because I'm relentless. You can't do anything. You got the fence behind you. So I said, how do you use me? I'm just asking. They never reached out to me. You're going to love this. You're going to love this. So, that's why I'm giving you some subject in the interview. So, I identified this down. So I'm waiting to say, aren't elections coming up suddenly? Brackett, I want to see him. He dodges me every time. Now I don't have any personal thing, but I'm going to say, did you join two good right out there on 2nd Street? And I told you that they were rogue, they were exploiting women and men. You forget, because I don't forget. I know the date and time I left. And so was the religions. So this is what happens. So now I was through some progress. So I have to address this because 400,000, something like that, is given to this treatment place for its women's rights. So I'm going to say, I'm going to say, yes, they do money. The taxpayers' money. They give you 9 months ago when I went to you, and you said you were going to never talk to me. Now, my daughter told me on the letter, if you don't talk to me, it's okay. I go to Washington, D.C. And I haven't been able to talk to you. I would love to talk to you. So, that's the next week's agenda. Now, I'm going to expose him. I'm going to have the interview with him. He's going to call me. And it's not useful evidence. And I have witnesses that went to that place currently that said that was the worst place ever. And wrapped it. I'll tell you why he did that pedal. And he goes, yeah, one guy there, one guy prayed. I said, well, of course they are. Trying to get clean, you know. Some of them are sadly addicts, we used to call them junkies, but now you got to use these fancy words, SUV. That's not right. Substance use, it's all political. I grew up in the streets of a junkie. You got to say the right thing because people get their 2 years. So what I like to do is meet with him and say to him, because if I can find his full support on this whole thing.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are about ready.
Yes, you're right. Father's words.
We're about ready to start.
He is relentless.
We're going to go into the county commissioners. Would you please have it?
So you got my number.
Let's see, 1, 2. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please? I'm going to
reach out to me so we can get to this.
Testing. Testing.
Testing 1, 2. That's good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, would you please have your seats? We're ready to get started. Just as important as the school district is our county commissioners. They play an intricate part in everything that goes on. Some of you are not even aware that they have an important part to play in our school district because our district gets funding from them. They also have some accountability when it comes to our schools and our children. So please pay attention and be focused. Before I would be remiss if I didn't do this. One of our candidates is missing, and for all you fathers and grandfathers, I'm sure you can understand Commissioner Flescher, he's in Langley, Virginia at Langley Air Force Base. He's expecting his first grandson, who will be the fourth. He wanted us to know that he was not slighting us, that there was not a disrespectful to our candidates forum. But gentlemen, if your wife told you that you're going to be at your grandbaby's birth, I'm sure all of you believe it too. So that's just to put it in perspective. And something for your notes. Our moderator, we have a kindred spirit. She is also a former member of the United States Air Force. So she has served our country. She realized when I acknowledged that, I'm prior Air Force, 3 years, 11 months, 28 days, 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I wouldn't join the Boy Scouts. So we've been there, done that, and can write a thesis. With that being said, I'll now turn it over to our moderators to introduce our candidates for County Commission. Once again, thank you, and we hope you're informed.
I apologize, I should have done this the first time. So we understand that these three are in the same race, correct? All right. Yes, sir. And then Ms. Siebert has Mr. Flescher, who's out of town. So, just so you have a mental picture in your head, Ms. Crease.
You can do some social distancing.
He's in the middle of the rail, Tony, so I told him to come on down.
Okay, y'all work that out.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will start with an opening statement. Each of you will have 1 minute to tell us, what does it take to be a county commissioner? What is your greatest asset to offer the community? And what experience do you possess in order to make you a candidate worthy of the voters' trust? We'll start with Ms. Binford, Mr. Loar, Mr. Lowther, and Ms. Siebert.
Hi everybody, thank you for this forum today. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Joann Binford and I am 55 years old. I'm a mother, a wife, and a constitutionalist. I'm a little bit nervous, sorry, but I'm ready to be the county commissioner because I feel like I can relate to the audience. I was a single mom here for several years. I know Kevin Browning from the school district because I worked for the school district for 16 years. I also, like many folks, struggled. I had to use the SHIP program to help me get into my house after my divorce. And it was a fantastic program, and I love programs like that. Why? It's a leg up. I believe in a leg up. I believe in teaching a man to fish so he can always eat. Not just giving him fish, because he'll just go hungry the next day. I believe that I'm going to be a good county commissioner because I do the research, I do the homework, and I believe in our constitutional values, which is limited government, a free economy. And I'm a little nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous today, but I'm going to be that commissioner that reaches out to you. Thank you.
Mr. Loar.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Daryl Moore here, your former sheriff from 2009 to 2021. By far, I feel that I'm most qualified for this role, as I put 32 and a half years into law enforcement. I retired in January of 2021. I know this community particularly. I know the county particularly. In fact, the first Monday of every month, I was in this building for the COPE meetings for 12 years straight. 12 times 12 is 144 meetings I had here as your sheriff, answering the questions and concerns that the community had. On behalf of the sheriff of the Daryl Moore candidacy, Your Honor, I want to thank you. Mr. Browning, I want to thank you. I certainly appreciate you coming in, Ms. Jackson, Ms. Brown. But as important, friends, I want to thank these candidates up here. It's not easy being up here. I mean, you can get nervous, you can get tongue-tied, you always get thirsty while you're up here. I'm Daryl Moore, I'm prepared for the job. It's recency and relevancy. I know what the county needs. I'm 54 years of age, and I'm ready to charge forward to lead this county in the right direction. Thank you.
Mr. Lowther.
I'm
I'm not giving my age, but that's okay. My name, before I get started, I'd like to introduce my wife, Beverly. Of 41 years we've been married together. Thank you. I will take a call on that. But more importantly, Mr. Brown, I believe I was a county commissioner when you were a teacher, and you were teaching my daughter. I appreciate that. That's my history where I believe I am the best at this job, because I've done it. I was here in 2002 to 2006, your chairman in 2005. But more importantly, I was instrumental in getting Teddy Floyd his house on the playground when we needed protection. He was a sheriff's deputy. Also, more importantly, went to Gifford Middle 6, went to Gifford Middle 7, talked to my hearts. They know Mr. Trapp real well. That's why my knuckles are extremely large. I was in percussion. But more importantly, I'm still serving as your commissioner for mosquito control. So you're being protected by mosquitoes. You're being protected by a future county commissioner. It was a county commissioner before. And more importantly, I'm a private business owner. I've owned my own business for 25 years. I've been in the funeral business for 44. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Siebert, and the last time that this office this seat was up for office, there wasn't a challenger. I feel like the Indian River County voters, especially minorities, have not been served or represented. The needs of our neighbors have not been met. I'm a third-generation public servant. I'm a business owner. I grew up with people in my household, like my dad, who was a great leader, Alma Lee Lloyd, and my uncle, Charles Henry Walters, who all taught me the value of public service and leadership. I'm a small business owner and an artist, and I have a part-time job while running for county commissioner. I want to put public service back into leadership. Please vote for me August 23rd.
Thank you very much. Recent commissions have recognized that for racial reasons, Gifford was historically provided with insufficient infrastructure. Now, those commissions supported the revised Gifford neighborhood plan, which has addressed some of the deficiencies, like the work on 45th Street and at Martin Luther King Jr. Park. What existing deficiencies do you see remaining in Gifford, and how would you address them? We'll start with Mr. Loar, Mr. Lowther, Ms. Siebert, and Ms. Binford.
Thank you, Mr. Browning, and I can tell you, as my 12 years as a sheriff, going to every single county commission meeting, joining our friends here at the code meetings, we understood those things. We watched the development of 45th Street. We watched in concert with some of our other deputies, in concert of tearing down old buildings, different gardens and the like, and continue to provide the infrastructure. Oftentimes at our code meetings here, the items that would come up would not specifically be law enforcement type questions, but at the end of the day, I knew that obviously the county commissioner's call to get it done. We continue to improve that. We've got to work on our septic and sewer here in Gifford, in Wabasso as well. It's a big $1 million project going on, a state grant. They're starting in Sebastian, they're working through Wabasso, and finally going to work to Gifford. We're going to continue to work hard to make sure that's improved, even though this isn't my district. You can call me, Daryl Moore, to answer any of your questions that you may have countywide. That doesn't matter. I did it as a sheriff, and I was hoping you were going to ask me that question about when you have to call me back in 24, 48 hours. You call me right now, I'm going to call you back. That's how I live. Thank you.
That's a great question, Mr. Browning. And I had the opportunity talking to an elderly woman about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We had an issue on, I believe, 28th, where the county came in, built 28th up. When it rains, it floods her house, and I guess the house is around it. I can tell you, on August 24th, the day after the election I'm elected, I will start working on that process, make sure the county comes back and makes it that long or right. And more importantly, I was responsible for helping Wabasso get the clean water they used back in 2005. They had some issues with their water and septic. But I think the key to that, being the commissioner that had meetings and met with Brevard County, St. Lucie County, all the municipalities, I believe it's essential to have a monthly meeting with the county commission and Gifford, so we can have the ears of what's going on with 4 other commissioners other than your representative.
I'm really glad you asked this question. I brought the Gifford neighborhood plan. I got this from Mr. Eilette, and you've had projects on hold since 2018. Repair and connect sidewalks along 45th Street from 43rd Avenue to US 1. let me see what the other one is, the major ones. Signal at 58th Avenue and 45th Street and 58th Avenue and 49th Street. Apply for CDBG grant for rehabilitating standardized housing units. These projects have been on hold since 2019. It's 2022, folks. What's going on? I mean, as a commissioner, I would be out there and be working to get these things done. I see cracks on sidewalks. I've talked to a lot of people in Gifford. I've gone door to door canvassing, and they feel like Gifford's been left behind. Indian River County is beautiful, but Gifford's not getting their infrastructure taken care of, and they're not being attended to. It's neglected and forgotten the day after the election. I won't do that to you. Thank you.
I've experienced the same thing walking through Gifford and knocking on doors. They feel like they're left behind and the infrastructure is falling apart. I drove through with volunteer, we talked to residents, and there's, you drive through Gifford and it's beautiful here, and then all of a sudden it's like, what happened here? Why is this being so neglected? So it really needs to be taken care of. That community's been there forever. And so it shocks me going through Gifford to see why some areas are not repaired, they're neglected. That needs to be a #1 priority. Those folks do not feel like this county is listening to them.
Thank you. In order to enact any policy changes, a majority vote of the board is required. What would you say to working class voters in Indian River County to assure them that once you are elected, that their needs and interests will be part of the county commission's agenda? We'll start with Mr. Lowther, Ms. Siebert, Ms. Binford, and then Mr. Loar.
And that question was the working class people?
Yes.
My dear, I can tell you, I am working class myself. I do own my own business. I know what it means every day to try to make payroll and make sure my employees get paid. So I can tell you right now, on my flyer that's been sent out, I do have my cell phone. And I am being contacted daily by people asking me these questions. And I truly believe that people realize that with me, what they see is what they get. And I definitely give them the answer because I am for the people.
Ms. Siebert, can you
Repeat the question.
What would you say to the working class voters of Indian River County to assure them that once you are elected, that their needs and interests will be a part of the county commission's agenda?
That's a really important question. The incumbent currently has $76,000 combined in cash and in-kind donations. The majority of that is coming from special interest groups, land developers, construction people. Money is coming in from Tallahassee. None of my money is coming from anybody but the local community. I also want to mention that we've got to do some stuff for West Wabasso too. That needs a lot of help as well. So, number one, I'm only beholden to the voters, to you. My number's published too. People are calling me. People are reaching out on my website and asking me questions. So I'm available. As a matter of fact, I'm told I'm one of the quickest ones to call back. So all I can say is that I will be there, I will work through, and I will make certain that we make progress for this community and also West Wabasso.
Ms. Binford?
Hey, when I think of the working class, I don't think of a business owner. I think of the person that's struggling, the person that's making less than $40,000 a year, anywhere from $21,000 to $31,000 a year. Most of our working class here in Indian River County are below $35,000 a year. The school district is the biggest employer, but a lot of those jobs don't, you've got secretaries, you've got custodians, you've got bus drivers, they're not making $40,000 a year. So the working class does not own a business in this county. We're talking about people that need help, that are struggling. And that's why I'm running. And when I think of the working class, I think we need trades to come back. Like we said, we should collaborate with the school district, the Chamber of Commerce, and our municipalities, and start talking about trade schools coming back to the middle school so they transition to the high school. Trades are good jobs, good career-paying jobs, and they can lead to entrepreneurship.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. When I first ran for sheriff, I began in 2008. The first debate that we had, it was in the middle of 2007, it was right here on this stage. Many of you may have been here when there was like 5 candidates up here. I went in 08, I went in 12, I went in 16. Friends, that's proven leadership. That is running an agency of 544 men and women with an over $60 million budget. It's increased since I've left, but that's fine. The economy has grown somewhat in the last couple of months. Now we're seeing some other stuff. But my commitment is to make sure that whatever class you are, working class, any class, whatever, I'm there. I've proved to be responsible. I will prove to you again in 19 days that I will be a responsible county commissioner and lead this commission. The commission needs leadership. We know that. Peter O'Brien is retiring. Great leader. They've got to inject a new leader in there that's going to carry this county further down the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gifford's economic situation generates grants and other money for the county. How can we have a better allocation of those funds to the area generating them? We'll start with Ms. Siebert, then Ms. Binford, then Mr. Loar, then Mr. Lowther.
Well, when I hear business and allocation of funds, when I hear government and allocation of funds, the first thing I think of is audit. I'm always going to be looking to audit and make certain that the money that is allocated does go. The Gifford Neighborhood Plan has allocated funds for projects that have not been fulfilled. The question after that is where did those funds go? When I'm on that commission, I will make certain that I track down the money and I find it and I put it in the communities and places it's supposed to be at. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Binford?
Okay, so when you're trying to allocate funds elsewhere and you want to look at your balance sheet, you want to audit, you have to audit. You have to look at the projects, you have to look at your strict codes and see where you need that money and where you can defer it from. If you need to defer jobs because something else needs to happen more quickly, that's how you do it. You have to do the audit, you have to look at the data, you have to look at what is working and what is not working, and you need to see the priorities. And if you need to save money on taxes, you can say, hey, we're not going to spend this much on this account, it didn't use that much money this year, we can allocate it somewhere else. But it all has to be according to what you're allowed to do with those grants. And if you have a trust, you can only specifically use it for that trust. So grants can be used, but it's specific to what it's used for, basically, grants.
Thank you again. I would say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but the reality is this, folks, is the county has about a $440 million budget. Obviously, the county is broken up into 5 districts. The county also has 5, 10-year, 20, 25-year visioning plans. Many of you may have been some of the visioning meetings that we've had in the past. If you're looking at your trim notice, there's certain taxing districts that you may be in this part of the county versus in the north part of the county. All of those come into factor. But the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Your representative, although it's Joe Flescher at this time, I'm basically in the South County. You can call me anytime. It takes 3 out of 5 to get something passed, but you've got to have your facts in order. We've got to have a room filled like this come budget time. I was at the last 3 budget hearings. Friends, there's 4 or 5 people that have any interest in hearing what's going on, other than a couple nonprofits and state agencies that have to be there. The fact is, we don't have any citizens complaining. I think when we get them out and turn them out, they're all voters, they're all voted in. Thank you.
I concur, the squeaky wheel does get the grease, but more importantly, I think you have to feel comfortable with your representative that's sitting up there. It doesn't necessarily have to be from District 2. Again, I go back to putting the rubber on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what it takes to get along with the other four. You could be the boss of the sheriff's agency for 12 years, but you're the boss. You have to be able to get along with four other people sitting on that commission and make things happen. And truly, this North Gifford Aquatic Center here, the swimming pool, I remember there was a big issue about having a pool up here. Got that through. It's huge. I truly believe that, again, as we sit down, as I'm elected as your next county commissioner, it doesn't have to be Joe Flescher. It can be me. We begin to have meetings. We begin to have voices. We begin to listen to you. We begin to get things done. Thank you.
Affordable housing is a big issue in Indian River County. Other counties set aside funds for rehabilitating houses and communities. Taking into consideration that there's a $425 million budget, long-term plans are supposedly already in place, 5 and 10-year plans. How would you propose to commit to a realistic, affordable housing plan, which would also stymie the effects of gentrification? We will start with Ms. Binford, Mr. Loar, Mr. Lowther, and Ms. Siebert.
You said stymie the effect of what?
Gentrification. Justification.
Justification?
Gentrification.
Gentrification?
Yes. And I don't, with all due respect, I don't want to eat up the time in trying to explain that. And if you can just answer the rest of it, that would be fine.
Okay, so with everything being on a 5 to 10-year plan, with affordable housing, this is a tough thing. Housing keeps getting more expensive and more expensive, and the affordable housing that they're talking about right now is like $200,000, $250,000. And with that being said, we need to have a labored workforce, a skilled labor force that can earn a living to live in that housing, unless we're going to go to Section 8 or, but what they're building right now, they cannot build less than $200,000 right now. So we have an employment and skilled labor issue that we have to work on, and that's why I say we need to bring those shop classes back to schools. We're paying a millage for our kids in school, and we're missing a crucial part of education because not every kid goes to college. Some kids are good with skills, and they will learn a skill like the wood shop. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor, thank you. So we have to look at this thing from a 30,000 foot length, and we have to look at it how this county, this country, this state has solved other problems in the past. Currently, obviously, we have to do solving the lagoon. But at the end of the day, affordable housing, the question is, what is affordable housing? 100, 200, 300, doesn't matter. Nobody knows. We know we don't have the jobs. We know we don't have the support. We know what inflation has done. We know that a recession is right behind an inflation. But we look at models like Habitat for Humanity and other places. I've just visited a guy this morning in Sebastian that bought 16 little cottages up there. He's going to make those affordable housing. Very interesting fellow. We get a collaboration of those types of folks, all the stakeholders involved. Let's talk about the banks. Maybe we can find some banks that want to help us with lending practices. Let's talk to some builders. Maybe they want to help us. Let's talk to some of our nonprofits, see if we can get them on board. But we do have a crisis in affordable housing. We've got to work together to solve it. Can't solve it overnight, but we've got to work together to solve it. Thank you.
Mr. Lowther.
I want to say that I feel that I'm a great leader already because Mr. Loar is already saying things I've been saying every candidate forum we've talked about as far as Habitat for Humanity. And actually, it's the villages up in Sebastian that the source is looking at. It's developing that. So I appreciate you taking my lead on that, Daryl. More importantly, is I think it's keen to have developers come into place, have a deal with developers, because it's happening in Fellsmere. There's going to be a development, there's going to be 390 homes, there's going to be about 250 townhouses, there'll be in the neighborhood of 200,000, and then the homes will be 250,000. That's a start. So it's a key beginning to work with those plans that are working, get with those people, make it happen. I appreciate you following. Thank you.
I really appreciate the question about gentrification. On August 17th, 2021, I was told I was being redistricted out of District 2. I live off of 45th Avenue. I was told the district was going to be split. I stood in front of the commission 6 days after having surgery and spoke on racial gerrymandering. Further, I spoke with people that were also concerned about gentrification. Gifford's border lines have been shrinking. When we tried to do a public records request, we could not get the maps dating back to 1925. Therefore, we know that Gifford has been shrinking. We did get them back from the 1960s, so we've seen the land shrink. I believe that if we follow the Gifford neighborhood plan and we got the grants, we could rehabilitate the housing so that people could live here and they could afford to live here. I'm concerned that the incumbent is in with land developers. To prevent gentrification, I want to put a moratorium on building except for workforce housing and affordable housing in minority communities, specifically Gifford and West Wabasso.
The urban services boundary was set some 35 years ago when the population of Indian River County was about 60,000. The boundary has not been moved since, and the county population is now about 160,000. Consistent with basic economics, given the growing scarcity of building lots, lot prices have seen a major increase, driving up the cost of housing. Are you for or against moving the urban services boundary to the west? If we can go back down the line, this way. Yes.
That's 2 in a row for me. I actually do believe in extending the urban service boundary line. We have plenty of land, we have plenty of resources. Again, this is a wealthy county. We have, I believe, $492 million, including the general fund, which is $100 million. So I don't see any conflict of interest or any problem. I also want to build out in that area the affordable housing and the workforce housing for our community so we can have people hired that can actually live here and work here. Because right now, most of our people that are working here, that are working class, are commuting in at $5 a gallon and they just can't do it anymore. Thank you.
We do have about 31 to 32,000 homes that are within what they call the donut hole that's within the urban service boundary. And actually, my opinion as county commissioner, what I would look at is having a vision of leveling that urban service boundary off in increments, and then having a vision of every 5 to 10 years moving that urban service boundary as you need to. But more importantly, I would also want to recognize about a 25 or 30 acre medical node out there, at least on the west side, to serve as another hospital. Because Cleveland Clinic can't handle all of it, so you have to have a vision of that as well.
Well, thank you, and just a little likeness. You know, we've had so many debates, the three of us, that I know Tommy's answer, he knows mine, and believe it or not, we do go back some 30 years, so we do get along, believe it or not, even though he doesn't wear a suit very often. Listen, our urban service boundary was developed in 1985, the year I graduated high school. So you know we have a problem and nothing has been modified or changed. And like Tommy, I agree in incrementalism. Now, of the 30,000 homes that we do have, land that we do have within the USA, some call it urban service area, urban service boundary. You have to remember, friends, the county has to have the infrastructure to get to grow west of 95, for example. You've got to have water, you've got to have cable, or utilities and the like. You've got to have fire response in a reasonable fashion, deputy sheriff response in a reasonable fashion. All of those things have to go in together, and that's why the visioning plan is so important, and that's why our 5-year, 10-year plan is so important. And as your next county commissioner, we're going to continue to work on that. I can assure you of that. Thank you.
I can see the urban service boundary growing in increments, but we also need to talk about putting industry out there as well. You're going to expand it and put more housing, but where are people going to work? They're still going to have to leave the county to work. We still need jobs in this county. We need industry in this county, and nobody talks about that. They talk about growing housing. They talk about extending it in increments. We've got all this housing that's set up to go there when it's ready to go, but we need some jobs. We need manufacturing to come to Indian River County. You know, if we keep building houses and houses and houses, we're going to push out the working class. The working class is having a hard time. The service industry people are having a hard time. You know, we can't have multi-families living in big houses to make the bills all, pay all the bills together. We want to have individual freedom with our families, but we want to earn a good living here. And that's getting difficult here in Indian River County.
Thank you.
Continuing along with the theme, county commissioners play a significant role in recruiting recruiting industry to the area they represent. Each of you has just touched upon this. Your county neighbor to the south has brought Amazon to Fort Pierce and FedEx to Port St. Lucie, along with another smaller but relevant industries. Please tell us what your thoughts are on how Indian River can begin to recruit industry to support the citizens it serves. Ms. Binford, I'm going to start with you since that's where you left off, and we'll take it down the table from there.
Okay. So when I first came up, I was a little nervous. My background, I have a diverse background in Corbin industry. I came from New York. In New York, I worked for Bear Stearns, and I worked for electrical. I worked for semiconductor here in Florida. I worked for a manufacturer. I think we need to collaborate with all municipalities, with the Chamber of Commerce, and with manufacturing partners to bring that industry here. We also have to have, you know, some people are saying there's obstacles to owning a business here. It's so hard. I met a young man who's got 4 generations here, and he said he moved his business over to Melbourne because it was so much easier to run his business there because there were so many obstacles for him here. We need to have incentives for these companies to come here. They're only going to do us good. Our people need the work. We need manufacturing to come back. Those are good, skilled jobs.
Mr. Loar?
Well, thank you. So we have about 165,000 residents in Indian River County. We have 90,000 retirees. The rest of those folks that make up you and I basically either work for the government or they're in some type of service industry. We have to work very closely with the Chamber, who, if you go to the Chamber's website, you can see all 3 of our interviews with respect to that. But I can also tell you this, that the last big manufacturing plant that we've had has been the CVS out west of I-95. Have you ever seen that? And Your Honor, you're right. I was in Port St. Lucie not long ago. When you see the Amazon building, you think you're at Disney World. It's so big. But that being said, you've got to work with the county commission. As the sheriff, I have a lot of recruiting efforts going on to recruit good men and women to come to the office. As the county commission partners with the chamber, like they already have, and continue to do that, by the way, of some of our optional, but our bed-to-head taxes, our resort taxes, dollars of that go to our Chamber of Commerce, and they are to develop us, report back to us to continue to get that funding. We've got to enhance that. I know we can do better. We're just going to work harder to bring the industry in as far as recruiting large businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lowther?
As a sitting county commissioner in 2002, we did develop the industrial park that you have CVS out there. So thank you for mentioning that. Not only did CVS come out there, but we actually had a fight back from the community because they didn't want to have this as an industrial park out there. But we were talking with companies like that like the Turnpike, they like I-75, and unbeknownst to us at the time as a city commission, I believe, or as a city council member, I believe it was the Walmart distribution center that was interested out there, but the county staff nixed it. And we didn't know that at the county commission level. So we have to stay on top of our P's and Q's. But we already have begun to institute things like that for industry to come in and operate. And I'm proud to say that was part of that. Thank you.
These 3 are pretty on fire over here. I have actually looked into this as well. I went down to Fort Pierce and I looked at their laser technology lab. They actually have a wonderful facility, and it's 6 months and their people are getting recruited out and going to California. They're not staying here. We'd really like to see having Harris come down, Defense come down into Indian River County and start building out that area. So my idea is to give tax incentives and help corporations move into the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
According to the Indian River County 2030 Comprehensive Plan, multifamily units are being built along Indian River Boulevard, along US 1 in the south part of the county, along State Road 60 between 58th and 82nd Avenues, and several other areas of the county contain smaller concentrations of multi-family housing. One is Gifford, an area that contains scattered multiple family development west of the US Highway 1. According to the plan, there will be an increase in multifamily dwellings in Grand Harbor, State Road A1A, the Barrier Island, I know it's long, and the Sebastian area east of Highway 1. But what about the people who live between 41st and 45th Street? Would you prefer that Gifford continue to have an undeveloped look, and include your thoughts for Gifford, please, for this area? Let's see. We'll go. Yes, sir. Mr. Lowther, Moore, Binford,
I think one first, Mr. Brown, if that's okay. No, listen, I think 41st and 45th, truthfully, that needs to be a discussion that Gifford wants to have with the county. Obviously, number one is the comprehensive land use plan. What is designated there? Can multiple housing go there? If not, then you'd have rezoning to make that happen. But I think that's a call that you, as Gifford residents, need to make. Don't put that on the burden of the county, because truthfully, I wouldn't let the county make that decision on your behalf. If it's something that you as a community want to see, then it's a matter of going to rezoning, looking at having something like that happen. I would have no problem if it's a flavor that you all would want to see, but more importantly, it's a comprehensive land use plan. That's something that has to be changed. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Loar.
Oh, thank you. I was on 41st 2 or 3 days ago, and you notice as you're coming west, you're seeing they're building more and more commercial storage for automobiles and the like. So as Mr. Lowther mentioned, it all depends on the zoning. We do have to work collectively together with the mission right now, obviously inflation, recession. So we're looking at this thing as affordable housing. Now, many of you know and know that our housing prices were just flat for years and years and years. That, I believe, after the recession, things are going to calm down. You see what the Fed's doing to the interest rate just last week, getting that up to make borrowing money even harder. So when you boil things down, we look at it as a community, we see what the niche is, we see what we need in a particular area, whether it's South County, whether it's North County, or whether it's here, and decide what the residents want.
Yeah, I've talked with some residents in Gifford, and they are kind of nervous about it. Some people don't want it to happen. They feel like it's selling us out. We're not going to be able to live here anymore and afford this place anymore. I think Gifford is a really beautiful neighborhood. I walked through there, and it touched my heart. I was like, this is really a beautiful community. It just needs some help. And I think it's all about the community. You folks that live out there, you have to decide what you want and get together and as a unit and come to the county commission and tell them what you really want, because I've met residents there and some of them are concerned, some of them think we're not going to be able to live here, they're pushing us out. Some people feel that way. And so you guys need to go to the county commission and let them know how you feel and get there in droves, fill up the room.
Well, I agree that Gifford is beautiful, and it's a wonderful Black historical community. And I believe that our first priority is to preserve this community. So that means no gentrification. If you're going to build homes which Gifford residents cannot afford, then that becomes gentrification. So I am for the people of Gifford having homes and being able to live here, but I also do not want gentrification, and I want to make certain that things are affordable for these people. So that's going to take all of you. Even when I sit on the commission, I'm one voice. Join me, and we will do this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If given the opportunity, what issues would you direct the commission to attack and why? We'll start with Ms. Binford and go down the table.
I know I'm beating this like a hammer. We need to address the income issues. We need to help people. We need to educate people. We need to have trade schools. I'm concerned because housing is going to keep rising, and the income levels are not rising in Indian River County. And we need industry. We used to have Knight's Armament. That was a manufacturer that was driven out of Indian River County. They're now in Brevard County, and their company grew 3 times. That was jobs. That was trades. That was money for Indian River County, and we missed out on it, and so did the people, because the people would have had a place to work. So I'm going to drive that to the core. Look, we can keep talking about housing, but if we don't have jobs, we're going to push out the people that already live here because they won't be able to stay here.
Thank you. Mr. Loar?
Yes, ma'am. For a civilized community, you've got to be safe. You have to feel safe in your homes. You have to feel safe when you're traversing through our county, going to other counties and the like. That's number one. Number two, and very quickly, when I take office in November, the county employees in the building department, they need some guidance. If you talk to anybody that's building a house, there's delay after delay after delay. It's not necessarily the county's fault. There's a lot of factors that go into that. However, our turnover rate in our building and planning department at the county is like it was at the sheriff's office when I got there. That has to be solved, whether it's better benefits or better pay, because at the end of the day, we need those builders getting those certification of occupancies, those COs to move into those homes, for families to move into those homes, move into those buildings, to get it on the ad valorem tax roll. The quicker we get on the ad valorem tax roll, the better, as long as it's safe, it meets all code inspections and the like, but we can work hard together, and we can train those folks to enhance what's going on and work on the building and planning department while being safe on our streets.
Thank you. Mr. Lowther?
Thank you. I'm going to be on a little bit bigger and broader level, and actually, I'm not going to wait until November. When I get elected on the 23rd of August, it can start on the 24th, and more importantly, it's what we talked about earlier. It's the infrastructure. I think Indian River County has a vision, but they haven't been following. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I was on the commission in 2004. We decided to vote and widen 43rd and 60, and it's still not done. That was 16, 17 years ago. So we have to be prudent and we have to move quickly, but we have now 165,000 people here. So infrastructure is going to be keen on me. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Siebert?
Frankly, I believe that we need to work on race relations. Everybody in Gifford needs to have confidence that in their commissioner, that the commissioner is going to be listening to them. We just had a shooting, Jamal Fredericks, and I'm not going to comment on that, but I have friends, and when I walk this neighborhood, I talk to people when I knock on the door, and they said to me, you do not know what it's like to be black in Indian River County, because we have fear when the police show up. And so I basically want to put everybody back to a point where we're on a level playing field. And people do feel good, especially in this community, that if they call the police, that they can feel safe. That's the most important thing. Second thing I want to do is reduce property taxes, because housing values are hyperinflated and everybody's getting taxed it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Sometimes there are disconnects between communities and elected officials. What can your constituents do to assist you in better serving their communities in Indian River County as a whole? We'll start with Mr. Loar and go down the table and back around to Ms. Binford last.
Certainly the communication is the key, and as the District 4 County Commissioner, I will be open ears and communicate clearly with you. If a constituent calls me with an issue, it's going to be taken care of. I can take care of issues in Sebastian, Bellsmere, Beachside, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just because my district is District 4, they're all constituents. Anybody on August 23rd can vote for anybody up here. That's the beautiful thing about being a county commissioner. So we have, all diversity of different types of voters who maybe have different philosophies when it comes to certain things. But no matter what party affiliation you are, you're a constituent of mine. I've proved myself time and time over and over again on that, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Lowther?
Could you repeat the question? No?
What can your constituents do to assist you to better serve Indian River County?
Great question. I think more importantly is it's to be engaged with you. You have to let them know, number one, that you are accessible to them. And I have always been accessible to the people when I've been in public office, even right now with mosquito control. It's one of those situations that if they communicate with me, and I heard the question earlier today, it's 24, 48 hours. I'm about 5 minutes. My phone is on 24 hours a day, so I do respond right back to people. So it's communication of having the constituents know that, number one, they can call you. It's not a problem. They don't get upset because you have to have the intestinal fortitude to go to your supervisor, let them know that there's issues with your problem.
Ms. Siebert.
I believe that, first of all, the constituents shouldn't come to me. I think I should go to the constituents. That's my responsibility as a commissioner, as the person that's going to be representing you. That's the most important part. I also have to build rapport with the voter so that they trust me, so that they know they're being heard and I address their issues. This is the most important part, is having this great rapport and being present in the Black community. Not going into office, winning, and not showing back up unless it's an election year. I will be here. I have been here for 11 years, and I will be here after I'm elected. Thank you.
Ms. Binford.
Definitely engaging with the community, learning about the community, learning about their culture, learning about what's important to them, being part of that community. It's very important. Just me walking around Gifford, I learned so much about the community, and I love it. It's fantastic. But definitely communication, being involved. And I see some of the county commissioners already do that. They're already involved with the community, and that's important. And I would do the same. I would be right out there supporting the community, communicating with the leaders, the people that speak for everyone. And then have you guys come into the county commission. Let's work it out together and find out what works best for that community.
Thank you very much. We are now at the speed dating phase. Thank you very much for participating. You'll get your final remarks, 30 seconds. We'll start with Mr. Lowther and work our way down the table and back around. Mr. Loar, you'll be last.
Just close on it? Okay. I would like to close, the 30 seconds I'd like to close on, and truthfully, you that are in this room will probably know these two gentlemen. I obviously, or unfortunately, you don't know that, was raised without a father here in Indian River County. When I hit the high school level, my mentors, ladies and gentlemen, were Coach Billy Wilson and Coach Jake Taylor. Two totally opposites on coaching. But I can tell you, they always instilled in me you could be the man that you want to be. And even after I opened up my funeral home, the differences between the two men, Coach Wilson would come to the parking lot, say, "No, Lowther, I'm not coming in." Coach Jake would come in, have a cup of coffee, and discuss things. To this day, those two men are still high regards to me where I am today. Thank you.
Ms. Siebert, can you just his final remarks, 30 seconds.
I run so that you have a choice at the ballot box. The incumbent has not had anybody run against him in 8 years. I was told not to do it. It was going to be really, really hard. But if I didn't run, you weren't going to have a choice. And choice is liberty. And that is important for me, that everybody had an opportunity at the ballot box. I grew up with Amelie Loy, who was a great leader, my dad, Willard Wilson Siebert, and my uncle Charlie. And they all taught me the importance of public service and leadership. I'm running to put public service back to work for you and represent you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Binford.
The ultimate decision is yours. I'm running to represent you. You are the voice. You are the voice of me. I speak for you. And I'm giving you an option here. You have had the same people running in office, and what results have you gotten? You're still waiting for results. Where our community is getting harder and harder and harder to survive in. So here's an option. Look up my website, see what I'm about. I was a little nervous tonight, and it's because it means so much to me, and sometimes you just choke up at the wrong time. But Kevin Browning knows me from the school district. I gave 16 years to the school district. I've always had a good evaluation. I'm a hard worker, an ethical person, and I will work hard for you and be available to you always.
Thank you very much, Ms. Binford.
Thank you. 33 years ago, I took an oath as a young state trooper. 13 years ago, I took an oath as the sheriff of Indian River County. going to win this election August 23rd with your help. November 17th, I'm going to take an oath to be your county commissioner again. I have been endorsed by the fire safety unions, the TC Palm editorial board, as well as the Realtors Association of Indian River County. My name is Daryl Moore. I'm a proven leader. I am here to help lead this county commission for many, many years, and I kindly ask for your vote on August 23rd.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our candidates. And also give yourself a round of applause. My communication chair, he gets upset when I don't follow orders, do it. But more importantly, to these two outstanding individuals sitting over here, Melanie and Kevin, ladies and gentlemen, give it up. I mean, really give it up. You have to love this. They were professional, they were efficient, they made everybody understand the questions, and they left out. It's kind of like journalism. They did not editorialize, they gave it to you raw. So once again, give it up for our moderators. And on behalf of the Indian River County branch of the NAACP and Faith in Florida, we are humbled by your presence. We thank you. We hopefully feel that you leave here with something you didn't come with, and that you be a better person going into the voting booths and do what is best for the entire community and leave politics outside, even though it is politics, but vote what is necessary to make all of Indian River County better. And I'll leave you with this, and I think several of the candidates alluded to it. In government, you must first be a servant leader, and then you must lead holistically, inclusive of everybody. And with that being said, Ms. Alma, would you please come forward? Where is she hiding at? Because I think Reverend Ryan left. Ms. Alma is also a lay minister. We open and close in the NAACP with prayer, and we're going to do it as, everybody got their own God, but I got mine, and I serve you diligently. Ms. Alma.
President, Father, we thank you. We give you honor and we give you glory. We thank you, oh God, for all we have heard, all we have seen, and I believe that you will be in the midst. Go with us as we go from this place, but not from your presence. Watch out. Be a protective arm around each and every one. Protect every household that thought it not properly to be here tonight. And if you do that, God, we will give you all the honor, praise that's due you in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Amen.